Hello. If you understand history correctly, you can see the future. Today, let's think about Syngman Rhee, who went to the United States as a special envoy. As you know, when young Syngman Rhee was in prison, the Russo-Japanese War broke out in 1904. 10 years earlier, Japan had won the Sino-Japanese War. However, Russia, along with France and Germany, threatened to attack Japan if it did not return the Liaodong Peninsula, which Japan had taken, back to China. Despite feeling humiliated, Japan returned the Liaodong Peninsula. On April 29, 1895, King Gojong and Queen Min, who observed this, developed a favorable view of Russia. They snubbed Japan and reached out to Russia, believing that Russia would protect Korea to the end. This led to a deep relationship between Korea and Russia. Japan, observing this, caused the Empress Myeongzong assassination incident to sever the relationship between Korea and Russia, and King Gojong took refuge in the Russian legation, an event known as the Agwan Pachin. Afterward, Japan considered Russia its main enemy, and prepared for war with Russia for 10 years. In the lead-up to the Russo-Japanese War, on April 2, 1895, 20-year-old Syngman Rhee entered Beiji Academy, and in January 1899, he was imprisoned in Hanyang Prison. About 5 years after Rhee's imprisonment, a revival movement occurred in Wales, UK, and in February 1904, the war between Russia and Japan broke out on the Korean peninsula. Thanks to the persistent release campaign by missionaries, Rhee finally ended his long prison life of 5 years and 7 months and was released in August 1904. The Russo-Japanese War was in full swing, and it was becoming increasingly clear that the winner of the war would take over Korea. The country was falling into greater chaos, and the Korean government came up with a solution to ask for help from the United States. Syngman Rhee was secretly mentioned as a special envoy to be sent to the United States, mainly because of his excellent English skills. Pastor Lee Ho describes it this way: a person's fate changed in an instant. Syngman Rhee, who had been a traitor, suddenly took on a major task that the nation's fate depended on. The turning point in Rhee's life came because he had learned English. But could he have learned English if there had been no Beiji Academy? That academy was a Western school established by missionaries. Who sent those missionaries? They came to Korea, on a missionary mission given by God. When you think of the invisible hand of God that strongly came upon Syngman Rhee, the death row inmate waiting for his execution day, opening his stubborn heart, aren't you moved? When you think of God's amazing providence that was with humans in their most desperate moments, you can't help but feel a thrill. And in the face of death, not giving up and seeking God while reading the Bible, the same God who visited Joseph in prison also visited Rhee in Hanyang Prison. Are there any of you who are in despair? Remember the God who visited young Syngman Rhee waiting for death in Hanyang Prison. Are there any neighbors around you struggling in despair? I hope you will have compassion and pray for them. Pastor Lee Ho quotes Yun Chi-ho's diary in his book, saying that Rhee's English skills improved remarkably in Hanyang Prison. I visited Syngman Rhee, who was released from prison yesterday, after nearly 6 years. He is an extraordinary young man. While in prison, he refined his English so well that he could write excellent papers in English. Syngman Rhee, facing death as a condemned prisoner and trapped in frustration and despair, found a new purpose after encountering God. His experience sends a silent message to those in hardship and believers with faith, doesn't it? It says that God is with us in any situation. On November 5, 1904, Syngman Rhee left for the United States, with a secret letter from the government to Congressman Dinsmore, known to be sympathetic to Korea. Rhee faithfully fulfilled his role as a special envoy, delivering the letter to Congressman Dinsmore and arranging a meeting with Secretary of State John Hay. Hay, a devout Christian, showed great interest in helping the Korean mission. However, Hay's sudden death the following year prevented any significant outcomes. Syngman Rhee in formal attire, to meet the President of the United States August 1905, Rhee had another document to deliver. On July 5, 1905, when the American delegation, led by William Taft, left San Francisco for Asia, stopping in Hawaii, the Korean residents there held a grand welcome party. They explained the precarious situation of the Korean Empire under threat from Japan, and pleaded for America's help. Taft, moved by their plea, wrote a letter of introduction to the president. The encouraged residents drafted a petition from the Koreans in Hawaii to President Roosevelt and visited President Roosevelt's residence in Oyster Bay, New York, on August 4, 1905, led by Syngman Rhee and Pastor Yun Byung-gu, representing the Hawaiians. President Theodore Roosevelt was reportedly very receptive. However, he advised them to follow formal diplomatic procedures and submit the petition through the Korean legation in Washington, promising to present it immediately at the peace talks between Russia and Japan. Rhee was overjoyed, filled with hope, as he rushed to the Korean legation in Washington. Kim Yoon-jeong, who became a diplomat with Rhee's help, had promised to assist Rhee if he became a diplomat. However, he also promised to cooperate with Japan if he became the Korean diplomat, reporting Rhee's activities in detail to the Japanese diplomat in Washington. Later, Kim Yoon-jeong became the governor of North Jeolla Province. For his cooperation with Japan, Kim Yoon-jeong rejected Rhee's request. Rhee was stunned, feeling as if struck by lightning out of the blue. He was overwhelmed by the thought that the country, with 4,000 years of history, was now doomed. Regaining his composure, Rhee raged, pleaded, and even threatened, but to no avail. Kim Yoon-jeong even threatened to call the police on Rhee. Rhee left the legation, trembling with anger at the betrayal of Kim. Yoon-jeong, the pro-Japanese opportunist. Pastor Lee Ho writes in his book that even if Kim Yoon-jeong had been a patriot, rather than a pro-Japanese collaborator, the outcome would have been the same. This is because Korea at the time was still steeped in a mindset of dependency on the powerful. The habit of waiting for help from another country after signing a treaty was hard to break. The East Asian order of treating the United States as a suzerain and approaching it with a spirit of dependency was very foreign to the United States. Even with a treaty, the basic premise is that one must protect one's own country. The idea that a treaty could make another country responsible for one's safety was unrealistic in the international order of the time, which was marked by the survival of the fittest. Treaties between nations must be backed by power and can change with the international situation. When the situation changed and there was no significant danger in breaking treaties, it was common international practice at that time to nullify existing treaties and form new ones. Looking back at Korea, it was a time when they completely depended on China, then Russia, then Britain, and were trying to depend entirely on the United States, unable to shake off their subservient mindset, despite the fact that international relations could change at any time. According to the global situation, Korea still did not understand the international order of the time. As you know, the international situation at that time was very unfavorable for Korea. The United States was more focused on curbing Russia's expansion than on Korea. Russia exerted international pressure to make Japan return the Liaodong Peninsula, which it had taken unfairly, to China. Then, 3 years later, Russia occupied the Liaodong Peninsula and stationed its troops there, revealing its ambitions to the world. Consequently, Britain formed an alliance with Japan to stop Russia's southward expansion. The United States was on the same side. During the Russo-Japanese War, both Britain and the United States actively supported Japan. Moreover, President Roosevelt of the United States was deeply fascinated by Japan's development. He admired Japan's rapid growth after the Meiji Restoration, while he almost despised Korea's backwardness. Roosevelt believed that Japan should have Korea to curb Russia's ambitions in Asia. This view became known to the world 19 years later, in 1924, through the Taft-Katsura Agreement. The Taft-Katsura Agreement was a secret pact made on July 27, 1905, between Japanese Prime Minister Katsura and U.S. Secretary of War Taft, agreeing that Japan would take Korea, and the United States would take the Philippines. So, by the time Syngman Rhee met with President Roosevelt, the decision to support Japan had already been made. Theodore Roosevelt, Rhee would later realize this point. He said, the 1882 Korea-US Treaty was nothing more than a diplomatic gesture. It was foolish and naive of Koreans to have expectations from that treaty. This realization made Rhee painfully aware of how sorrowful it is for a country without power in diplomatic relations. He also painfully recognized that powerful countries could easily trade weaker nations as bargaining chips. Through this process, he faced the reality of international relations and understood the logic of the great powers. These processes and trials accumulated and led to the emergence of Syngman Rhee as an outstanding diplomat on the stage of history. That's all for today. We have thought together about Syngman Rhee, who went to the United States as a special envoy for his country, reflecting on Rhee's maturity and growth in Hanyang prison. We are reminded of Moses in